What up? Back-to-back wins for the Avs, back-to-back games with excellent goaltending, and this time it comes in the form of a 26-save shutout for newcomer Scott Wedgewood. Money on the board for the guys either from Jersey or played for Jersey in the past. Ross Colton puts one on the score sheet this evening to start off the game early on. First shot on goal for Colorado ends up being the game winner. And then Wedgewood, a perfect performance on the second leg of a back-to-back against the National Hockey League's most potent offense, its best power play, and the Avs on tired legs shut out the Devils by a score of 4-0. Welcome in Between the Pipes, Alex Ryan-Emmy, alongside your network host this evening on AM 950, and that is Mark Springer. Spring, hell of a game from the Avs. An even better game from their goaltender, but this was a complete effort in a moment where I did not think that you were going to be able to control that game as completely as you did. The Avs dominated every aspect.
Well, it was a lot like the game last night. It was solid. It was sound. I thought Georgiev, as that second period rolled on last night, getting to the back half of the second period, I'm thinking, oh, damn, the Avs are going to get their first shutout win of the season. They deserve it at least. Alexander Georgiev is going to get his first shutout of the season. But no, Detroit scored one, took the shutout away from Georgiev just 24 hours later. They just had to wait a day, and they did get their first shutout of the season via Scott Wedgewood. But, playing on the second night of a back-to-back, having to get on a plane, being on the fourth game of a 5-game road trip, the back end of that thing, the legs can get a little tired. It didn't matter. It was a carbon copy of last night's game against an opponent that is a level up from Detroit. New Jersey's just a tick more advanced than Detroit is, and it's the same damn game. It is the same game. Once again, the second line is the best line of the night. Nichushkin, Middlestat, Colton. Once again, the third line works hard this time tonight. They are rewarded with the goal. The Kelly O'Connor Kiviranta line. The goaltending was good once again, and that's just weird. Like, what bizarro world do we live in where the Avs have allowed one goal in 120 minutes of play? In 2 straight games, they allow one goal. That's not right. That's not this Avs team. But you get the good goaltending once again. You play solid. You get 2 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they were quick to the puck early on in the game, and typically you see that out of teams that are on second leg of a back-to-back spring. Is you see them give everything in the first 20 minutes, and you try and get up by a goal or two and then just hold on for dear life, and hopefully you can win the rest of the game on special teams. And that wasn't the case for the Avs this evening. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for Detroit. I was waiting for New Jersey to realize what was happening and then to press the issue in the second and in the third. Wedgewood was he feels more athletic in net. He feels more nimble. He makes kind of the spectacular save. He does play a little deep in his net for my liking, but he makes it work. And he's hot right now. This team, when you get competent goaltending, is a Stanley Cup contender. This team, when you get decent goaltending, is one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And when you get elite goaltending, like you have for the last 2 games against Detroit and New Jersey, well, they're a cup favorite.
Okay. Who starts Tuesday in Pittsburgh? Who starts in net?
I don't know. I mean, my rule in hockey, and I'm obviously not a National Hockey League coach and never got close to it and never really obviously wanted to get close to it.
Well, neither did I, Raj. It's hey.
My rule was you don't take a guy off of a shutout. So for me, it's Scott Wedgewood. Wedgewood plays against Pittsburgh. Because both guys were great, and both guys are completely deserving of it, without a doubt. Both players are completely deserving of playing against Pittsburgh and giving yourselves a chance to garner 8 of a possible 10 points on this 5-game road trip. Both teams, without a doubt, both players deserve it, but Wedgewood had the better game. Better game against the better team.
Yeah, but Georgiev's. I think Georgiev was better last night than Wedgewood was tonight, and I think that's just simply because Georgiev was given a few more difficult chances that he had to save. Wedgewood had a few tonight, don't get me wrong, but Georgiev, it felt like, had just a couple, two, three more, and he was very good against some tricky chances that Detroit threw at him. Um, it's weird that it felt like Georgiev was under siege a little more in leg one of a back to back than Wedgewood was in leg two. And considering that New Jersey has a little more firepower, a little more dangerous firepower. I mean, Jack Hughes, whenever Jack Hughes touches the puck, he didn't do much tonight, but man, he's quick.
He's a good
He's
hockey player.
fast, he's agile, he handles that puck real quickly. I'm surprised he hasn't broken out to the level that I almost expected him to at this point of his career. But save for an opportunity here and there, it was rather lifeless for New Jersey tonight. And back to my original point, I thought Georgiev, it was the better of the two performances, but some of that is just what's thrown in front of you, what you are asked to save. I thought Georgiev was asked to save a little more. Man, and this is what I wanted. Back when we thought, hey, is this a tandem between Georgiev and Onanen? And then the Avs decided Onanen's 24, struggling against the good opponents. He's not quite ready. Let's shore some things up. Let's hedge our bets and bring in a veteran for Onanen. But it's that same tandem type thing. Like, is either Onanen or Georgiev winning a Vezina? Hell no. Absolutely not. But if you manage their workload, if you can get some sort of tandem rhythm going, there's something there. And here we see case and example number one. In back-to-back nights, both goaltenders put up pretty damn good performances. And it'll be interesting to see who they go with on Tuesday night. Do they go with the guy who just got a shutout or the guy who just had his best start of the year? I'll take that choice, that dilemma every day of the week.
Right, and it's a problem, a dilemma that the Avalanche have not had the luxury of waiting themselves through this year. They haven't had the luxury of doing that since, Pavel Francouz and Darcy Kemper were kind of sharing 1A, 1B responsibilities, with Kemper being certainly more so the one in that situation, but Francouz obviously jumping in and having played those 6 starts in the postseason en route to a Stanley Cup championship. You haven't had the luxury of making this difficult decision in a couple of years. It's something that I bet you Bednar and McFarland and Sakic are very happy to have this type of dilemma. And you know what? It's also better, and I know Pittsburgh's playing better as of late, right? Like they're on a little bit of a heater. I still think they're a crap hockey team. I think that they are built. I think they're built way too old. I think they're trying to hold on to nostalgia to sell tickets and to get 3 first ballot Hall of Famers to retirement by not wearing another jersey the entirety of their careers in Letang, Crosby, and Malkin. They're on a heater right now, but they're not a good hockey team, and you can score at will against them. It's nice that you get to make that decision against a team like Pittsburgh, and it's not like you turn around and you play Florida.
Sure, yeah, and especially you always see the 5th and final game of a road trip. The Avs' last final game of a road trip, they lost. Let's see, who was that against? That was in Tampa. Remember that was the game that got and fired, essentially.
The game was over in 3 minutes.
Yes, it was the 4th and final leg of a road trip. This is the 4th leg tonight. 5 is longer than 4. Will they be a little tired? You see this after especially 5-game road trips, but it's Pittsburgh, and they're like an older version of Buffalo, an older version of Detroit, that kind of mid-plotting team in the Eastern Conference, just like they beat Buffalo, just like they beat Detroit. They should beat Pittsburgh on Tuesday night. So hopefully this final leg goes better than the last one in Tampa. Speaking of Justus Onanen, he had a start for Nashville 3 nights ago in Montreal. Had a good game, allowed 2 goals on 29 shots, good for a 93 save percentage. But while I was high on Onanen, despite the rough starts against better teams, I remain high on Onanen. I like the situation he's in, going to back up UC Saros, an older Finnish goaltender. I think that's going to be some good learning that UC can get under UC. I get the move. I get the move. I mean, Scott Wedgewood is more primed for the right now. Hell, Georgiev is more primed for the right now. They're just, they're more veteran goaltenders. This tandem is probably more sustainable in the here and the now than the Anand and Georgiev tandem.
Yeah, it's definitely something that that is better for Onanen to go over to Nashville because he's got a couple of years that he can deal with his current contract playing as a true backup. Like there is no question who the starter is in Nashville, right? Like it is UC Saros, and even if UC has a string of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bad games in a row, it's still UC Saros with that contract extension. And by the way, is this true? The fan section on Twitter right now. Did the New York Mets just sign Juan Soto? Please tell me that you're not. Please tell me you're not fucking with me.
Well, I've seen fake report after fake report with Juan Soto.
It's on MLB.com. It's on MLB. Juan Soto to the Mets, baby! Woo-hoo! 15 years, $765 million. Let's go.
What's Pete Alonso's con? Is he gone? Is Pete Alonso gone? That's a ton of money.
Now he's gone. Alonso's toast. I bet you Alonso goes to the Yankees.
I could see that. Well, hey, congratulations. Now Juan Soto, he got to lose to the Dodgers in the World Series. Yeah! Now he gets to lose to the Dodgers in the NLCS. As the Mets will ultimately lose for the second straight year in the NLCS next year to Shohei Ohtani, except this time Ohtani will be pitching when he clinches that series on your Mets. Congratulations, Raj.
Dude, I am ecstatic. I know this is a hockey podcast. I understand that. I am so excited right now. They're going to make this look like the Jason Bay signing because that's like what the Mets do. He's going to sign for all this money, and then Juan Soto is going to turn into the worst baseball player of all time. I am prepared for that, but I'm so excited right now. I have never. I'm like shaking. I'm shaking.
Yeah, but dude, Ohtani's pitching next year. They just signed Blake Snell. Watch them sign that Sasaki kid, Roki Sasaki. Is that his name? Your Mets picked the wrong time to be what they are and to sign Soto because the Dodgers exist. But hey, a win for New York today. It's been a rough New York stretch. The Rangers lose at home to the Kraken. They've been in a bad way. The Giants and the Jets lose. So the Devils lose. They're New York adjacent. I guess the Islanders won today. But congratulations to your Mets, Raj. Some good New York news following a otherwise poor New York day.
What were we talking about? I don't even remember what we were talking about. What about the Avalanche? I am so derailed right now. My Mets fan just has me as a squirrel. Oh my goodness. Okay, back to the Avs. Back to a big win and the goaltending issues. The thing that I need to go to next is the best part about all of this spring is that the Avalanche won this hockey game, and they won both hockey games without really an awesome effort, especially in the goal scoring department from their top line. And that's all because of Valerian Nichushkin and what he brings to that second line and what Ross Colton has done the entire season in being able to take the next step, right? He was signed as a player that should have been a stalwart on your third line. There's been times, especially last year, that went, well, is he just a bottom six player? Is this just the Barclay Goodrow signing that the Rangers tried to get out of for so many years? And then he kind of solidified his, all right, he's a middle six guy. The way that he's been playing this year, is he a top six player?
Yes. Even a broken foot couldn't derail him. And I mean, how many one-time goals in the slot has he scored this year? I almost would like that. And I think that they did put him back on power play one on a power play they had in the first period. And I like Lehkonen in that bumper slot, but how freaking good was Colton in that position to start the season? He was money on those one-time shots. And, this one is a one-timer from Middlestat below net, and it's so quick. The release is so quick with Ross Colton, and he goes top shelf. It's unbeatable. And when they, I can't remember, was it sign or trade, whatever, it was all part of the New Hook maneuver, sending New Hook to Montreal and then bringing in Colton from Tampa. And I loved the move at that time. I'd watch Ross Colton on those playoff Lightning teams and think, and especially in the playoffs when the lights were the brightest, that dude scored clutch goals. And he, to me, it was like, okay, all the money you're paying everyone else, Tampa, you gotta let some guys go. Then Colton would be the guy that I felt like Tampa would be like, damn, we should have held on to him. I definitely thought he had second line ability, but thought for sure, look, if he's on your third line, I'm cool with that. I mean, I think he'll be a great third liner, but damn, he has progressed in a way that I did see was possible. And given the trajectory of his career, the physicality he plays with too, when Jonathan Drouin is back, and he's close to coming back, I'm taking Ross Colton over Jonathan Drouin. I think Colton should stay in the top 6.
Colton definitely brings a physicality and a prick factor to the offense that Drouin doesn't. The one thing that Colton does not have that Drouin will always have over him is an innate and blind feel with Nathan MacKinnon. And that's the thing that, while I do believe you're right, like if it came down to it, who do you have to keep? I think I'd probably keep Colton because of his ability to play the middle of the ice. Drouin has already shown that when he came into this league, he couldn't play the middle. That was a disaster when Montreal tried it out. Colton can play both wing and center. He can kill penalties, which is something that Drouin doesn't do. He can slot in on power play, which is something that Drouin does. It is a little bit of a superpower. It's a little bit of a wild card for him to be able to throw on the table, though, in Drouin and say, all of our best years, me and Nathan MacKinnon, our best years of hockey players have been together. Whether it was last year in the MVP season or it was the 2 years that they played together in Halifax where they put up unbelievable point production in the Quebec Major Junior League, right? Like he does have that little trump card if he has to play it in negotiations. What helps the Avs this season is that Drouin hasn't been available, and the availability over the course of his career has been a red mark on his ledger. And it will be a red mark on his ledger going into free agent conversations that the Avs and Chris McFarland can use and say, hey, listen, man, we want to sign you here, but you have injury history, and everyone knows you have injury history. We'll at least give you the term. The other teams in the league might not do that because they don't trust your body.
And also on, look, I'm taking Colton over Drouin in a vacuum, and that's a tough decision. Both are very good players. That's what I think of Ross Colton right now because I like Drouin. That's how highly I think of Ross Colton right now. But, Colton plays center, or, that's, his primary position. It's shown he can play the wing, and, a lot of good centers can. A lot of good centers can fly out to the wing, no problem. It's the other way that is a little bit of an issue. Wingers going and playing center. So I guess, there might be a thought of, oh, Colton, needs to occupy that third line center spot. Parker Kelly's been good down there, though. I mean, I don't know what you do with that line because Kiviranta and O'Connor have played well outside of Kelly. I imagine one of them's going down to the fourth line now. Probably Kiviranta, or maybe it's Kelly. Maybe it's Kelly if you're reinserting Colton onto that second line or that third line, excuse me. But there's options. And at the very least, look, if Drouin isn't playing up to speed, they can float Colton up on that second line. They can stagger. Jared Bednar has shown a propensity to stagger in moments. So the depth and versatility that this elevated play from Colton gives you, the pending return of Drouin, There are so many different options that they can use. And now, I mean, it was a top 6 tonight that I loved. Now it's going to trickle into the bottom 6 because either Colton or Drouin is going to be playing in the bottom 6.
It's probably going to be Colton.
Probably.
As well as he's playing. Jonathan Drouin is not a bottom 6 player, and that's a type of thing. Like, I've seen players in the NHL be let out on free agency because they don't fit in the perfect spot for that team, while they're good enough to make the team. And I've seen a lot of players that I've either coached or played with, or heck, I was even one of them at one point, where you have a conversation with a coach and said, yeah, and they say, hey, we see you as a top 6 player, but our top 6 is already filled right now, so we don't have a spot for you. Therefore, we're cutting your ass. Go find a new place to play. It happens all the time. That's what would happen with Drouin and Colton. Jonathan Drouin can't play bottom 6 minutes. He just can't. His body is not built for it. His game is not built for it. And as we've seen, if you handcuff him to Nathan MacKinnon, he is very, very effective. When you don't handcuff him to Nathan MacKinnon, he looks like, well, a top 3 draft pick complete bust at the beginning of his career, right? Therefore, you have to play Ross Colton, the Swiss Army knife in the bottom 6. However, does it mean that you have to that you have to kick him off the power play? No, it does not. No, it does not.
He deserves it. He deserves it. And I love Lehkonen in that bumper role, but man, Ross Colton has been great. And him coming back from that broken foot a little earlier than we were forecasting. We were thinking maybe after this road trip and that might have been just a tick early. This Thursday, when the Avs return home and face Utah, they got that two-game homestand, Utah, Nashville. Maybe I thought, okay, against Utah on Thursday, maybe that's when Colton returns. Him coming back a little early, and I don't know if maybe there was a sense of like, hey, is that foot's 95% healed? We need you out there, because they were the lack of that one missing piece in the top 6, throwing Kovalenko up there, who did not play tonight. Nikolai Kovalenko did not play, may have blocked a shot late in that win in Detroit and hurt the foot. That's a possibility. I'm not quite sure. But that one missing component in the top 6, that can contribute. That might be a contribution to going down 4-0 in Buffalo, losing in Carolina, shoring up that top 6, getting Colton back just a few days before we thought he would come back. That might be the biggest reason why they get all 4 points in the last 2 days. Just getting Ross Colton back a little sooner than they thought. Or else, you had Kovalenko up there. You're throwing Ivan up there. That's not Ross Colton. That's huge to be able to fill that 6th and final role in that group with a returning Ross Colton.
Getting another win and setting up what should be 3 straight against Pittsburgh and 4 out of 5 on this road trip to extend your record, hopefully to 4 games above 500, as you sit at 16-13 right now. You come home for 2 against Utah and Nashville. Utah's looking really good. If I'm correct, won another hockey game this evening. You should beat Nashville at home, who's a struggling hockey club. And then you go on a 3-game Pacific Coast road trip that starts in Vancouver against a bona fide playoff team, and they get a couple of layups against San Jose and Anaheim. San Jose is falling apart after going on a little bit of a heater about a week ago for the stretch of 10 days. And then Anaheim makes the trade to bring in Jacob Trouba. While they get a little bit meaner, they get worse defensively. That's a team that you should be able to skate around. This is a part of a schedule that I'm looking at. Let's call it a 10-game sample size, where you go over this 5-game road trip, and then you look at the 2 games at home and then the 3 road games that bring you all the way up until Friday, December 20. Bednar talks about 10-game sample sizes. You should be able to win 8 of the 10.
No, this starting with their next game in Pittsburgh on Tuesday night, the Avalanche enter a stretch of schedule that is very favorable to them. Even their toughest opponents coming up, man, you got to go really all the way to January 6th. Is that an important day? Is that a recent important day? Monday, January 6th. when the Panthers come to town. Actually, a little before that too, on New Year's Eve, the Jets come to town. But those are both at home. At Vancouver, Monday, December 16th, and only because that's on the road that's a tricky one. Everything else in there, and like I said, it'll culminate on January 6th with the Panthers at home. This is a portion of the schedule where the Avs can eat. And Winnipeg's fallen off just a little bit. I think the Wild are a little fake. This is the time coming up with Drouin back, with the goaltending room seeming to get a little stabilized here over the past couple nights. And having a Valeri Nichushkin back, Raj, who once again tonight, I mean, he only has one shot on goal. It's not the 5 that led the Avs last night. McKinnon led the Avs, and so did Kale. McKinnon and Kale tied for the Avs lead in shots on goal tonight with 5. But Nichushkin is a team high, therefore a game high. Actually, tied with Girard. Girard and Nichushkin are both +3s in this game. And look, man, Nichushkin, he's checking. That leads to the Ross Colton goal. It's Nichushkin and it's Middlestat forechecking. It's Nichushkin, Middlestat, Colton checking in the neutral zone to create a turnover. Valeri Nichushkin, even when he's not putting shots on goal, his presence, his movement, his penalty kill tonight was excellent once again. He's so tough to get through. You have him clicking right now. This is a stretch of schedule that is built for the Avs to do what we talked about when they get healthy, to whip off 5 or so game win streaks at a time. The time has officially come, and it starts with Pittsburgh, a weak opponent, on Tuesday night.
It certainly does. Nichushkin is the thing that changed everything for this club. And again, you just simply look at competent goaltending. And we had the question that has been asked by so many people, is that what happens if you just get league average goaltending? And the answer was, well, you probably win an extra 4 to 5 games over the course of the first, let's call it 25 of the season, if you just get league average goaltending. When you get above average and elite goaltending like you have for the last 2 nights, and both goalies were elite the last 2 evenings. I think you did say it right. Wedgewood had the easier night in terms of active shots against and chances against. He did not have the easier opponent whatsoever. Georgiev had the harder night in terms of on-ice flurries. At the end of the game, he stood on his head. The backdoor saves that he made were excellent. The actual opponent was not as good as New Jersey is. New Jersey is they're an Eastern Conference contender without a doubt this year, if they can get the goaltending. When you get above average toward elite goaltending, this is a team that it can do anything. It's a completely different conversation than everything that we've been having at the beginning of the year. Is it fixed right now? Am I convinced about that? No, because I still need to see another month of consistent above average goaltending from both of these guys to say, all right, they made the proper moves. It's fixed.
I think now, though, and look, I like Eustace on it, and I referenced the start that he had, his first with Nashville. It was a pretty good start. But if one of these goaltenders the Avs have right now, whether it's Wedgewood or Georgiev, if they have a bad start, which will happen because neither of these two dudes are world beaters, but they're solid. I still think Georgiev, we saw it the other night, can be a solid NHL goaltender. So if one of these guys has a bad start, here comes the other one. And unlike Oninen, they're both experienced. They're not growing. They're not learning on the fly. So I think there can be a patchwork element to this thing and more of that true tandem that we wanted to see when it was on him, but now it's a veteran in Wedgewood. I don't think it's going to be perfect. I don't think either of these goaltenders is going to whip off a 5+ game stretch of like a 93 save percentage, but I think there can be balance. And I think that they can play off of each other and they can wad through the ups and downs that each goaltender will have by simply having both of them, by having a reliable tandem. Experienced, I don't even want to say veteran. Wedgewood's more of a veteran than Georgiev is, but Georgiev is entering veteran territory in his career now. I think that we will see more stability as they take out a young developing goaltender who I like. Caveat, I like Onanen, but it didn't lend itself towards stability, which you need for a team that is in a win now window.
I mean, and honestly, Spring, what else did the Avs really need? When you looked at some of these games at the beginning of the season, what did they need? When we came after losses and it just felt like you snoozed through a game, you were just searching for a spark. You were searching for a little bit of juice, searching for something that made you excited. Wedgewood has that room glue guy mentality to him, and goalies often are not that guy because they're a little weird. But sometimes you run into goaltenders who have that quirk and have. I think Middlestat said it in Connor's post game interview with him. He's got a little bit of goalie in him, but most of it is locker room glue guy. And you heard it on the first night when he goes, what do you say?
Four lines, 6D, 2 10Ds all year.
Unreal.
Great, amazing line.
And that's the first thing that you get to say to the boys after you walk in and deliver a win, after the guy who started over you let in 4 goals on 8 shots against a really middling Buffalo team. That's the first thing you have to say that comes off the top of your head. The boys loved it. And then the next start that he gets after that, sure, it's against Carolina. You played well enough to give your team a chance. And then they give you another shot against your old team where I guarantee there were thousands of dollars on the board tonight for the Avs, with Ross Colton being a New Jersey native and having played his youth hockey there, and then Scott Wedgewood being a 3rd-round draft pick, was it 2010 or whenever he was drafted, years and years and years ago, Scotty Wedgewood. Thousands of dollars on the board. He's a locker room animal. By all accounts, a locker room animal. And things like that can inject energy into a team and make you different. It matters.
Yeah, I think they needed that in general. With Landeskog out, who's still with the team, but not entirely with the team, right? Landeskog brought him the big hat, but Landeskog, when he's playing, is such a good locker room guy who can mellow things out. Eric Johnson was that way. He's gone. I think there's been a little bit of personality missing from the locker room, and none of the guys I mentioned were goaltenders, but I do think it has been missing from just simply a goaltender perspective as well. Georgiev and Onanen, I think there's something to be said about a goaltender or having one in the room who can speak English. I just want to throw that take out there. Not trying to say this or that, but I think that there's
Connor,
a relatability. There's a relatability factor.
I think I just called you Connor, by the way.
Man, I wish I had his pipes. I think there's a relatability factor there to have one goaltender in the room. But man, he does keep it light. Speak English all you want. He's got a great personality. He's finally upgraded. He's got Avs pads now. He was rocking his Predators pads, but he's still got his Predators helmet. And he has put, though, an Avs sticker, just boop, little top center on that helmet, which
like
is
he's
hilarious.
a 16-year-old driving their first car, just
it's like, yeah, it's an Avs
bumper
helmet
stickers
now.
on it.
Do you see the sticker? Ignore the Predators paint. That's an Avs sticker. Yeah, his vibes are good. So yeah, is he a world beater? No, but he's a reliable veteran who brings good energy to the room, and maybe that can feed off of Georgiev, and all of a sudden this tandem can just play off of each other. Maybe they can elevate each other's play a little, perhaps.
Yeah, I expect them to. It's a good day to be an Avs fan. 16-13. You got back-to-back wins on a very difficult back-to-back set with Detroit and New Jersey. You got a day off and then an easier game on Tuesday evening against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Run through the NHL scoreboard, Spring. You were keeping tabs on all of these this evening as you were the network host for the Avs and the Devils tonight. Any scores outside of that Seattle Rangers game that popped out to you?
I mean, it's got to be Columbus going into Winnipeg and winning 4-1. I mostly because of the Central Division aspect to it, with Winnipeg going down, and They've lost, I think it's 5 out of their last 7 now has Winnipeg. And Columbus came into Denver and won early this season, but that's when the Avs were dealing with injuries and then the goaltending issues to start the year. I like Columbus. They've actually been that surprise young team. You'd think it'd be maybe Buffalo or Ottawa or Detroit. But Columbus in the East right now is that team that's kind of impressing me. But for Winnipeg, I think we felt. I mean, if you were real about it, if anyone was logical and real about it, that start would not be sustainable, and we're seeing right now that path to the Central Division is as open as it was just a couple weeks ago for the Avalanche. It's still wide open.
The Wild are still playing really good hockey right now. The Stars are hammering the Flames. They're going to be, if I'm correct, the only home team to win a hockey game as the third period expires. 6-2 is the final in Dallas. So the Stars get a couple of points. They pull back ahead of the Avs. The Avs do have 2 more games played than Dallas does this year. Dallas with a 2-point lead on Colorado. Lightning double up the Canucks on the road 4-2. 4-2 is also the final for the Islanders, who beat the Senators. The Isles are they're starting to claw their way out of the basement after Patrick Waugh had some sketchy things to say about what his GM had done for him in terms of like putting this team on the ice. I believe the quote from Patrick says, "Well, this is the team that Lou gave me." And there were a lot of people who were kind of raising eyebrows about that.
Well, he's not wrong. But he knew what he was getting into when he took that job. He knew the roster he had. And there is some talent. Like, it's a solid team. And look at that's a good win for them. But the Islanders, they really are that win loss type team. Like, that's what the Avs had kind of been doing, but the Avs are better than that. Patrick Waugh's team, it's an okay team. It's a middle of the road team. I get what he's saying though. There's only so much the head coach can do. We'll see how long term that organization is viewing things with Patrick Waugh, because that's a team that's going to need to try to tweak and retool some things through young players in the draft, trades to they got to make that roster a little younger in New York. So I get what Patrick's saying. We'll see how long term they view that operation.
Utah gets a 4-2 win over the Flyers as well. They've won 2 straight. They're now 6-3-1 over their last 10 games. And that's your look at the NHL scoreboard tonight. Just 7 games on a Sunday. You'll have 3 on Monday evening before the Avs take on the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday night on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. You get to see them play against Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, Crosby and McKinnon and Makar, as well as Devon Taves, all playing together on the Four Nations Cup team in a few weeks. That's taking the place of the National Hockey League's All-Star festivities this year. So while we're likely not going to ever see Sid and Nate play together on the Avalanche spring, we at least get to see them play together in best on best hockey now and then likely in the next Olympic cycle.
Yeah, no, for anyone who said this season, man, I really want and I wish that Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby could play on the same team this season. Congratulations, you get your wish. It's just not going to be in the NHL. It's going to be in this Four Nations face-off thingamajigger.
So what do you think about that whole Four Nations Cup?
Well, I like it and I don't like it. I like it because I think the games are going to be competitive. And the rosters for the Four Nations, USA, Canada, Sweden, Finland, all 4 teams are really good. All 4 rosters are great. And these games I think are going to be competitive, and it's going to, at least it'll be hockey over the All-Star break where the players are trying. And I think everyone's going to get into it and the hockey is going to be fun. That said, the downside is someone going to get hurt? And if someone does get hurt, yikes, especially if it's someone who's playing for a team with playoff and cup aspirations.
And there's a lot of teams, like all the best teams have the most players on these four nations. If you're a team that's heavy with Russians, you're pretty happy because the Russians don't have a team this year. I think it's a little weird that it's best on best and it's not inviting the Russians. It's not inviting the Germans either, and the German national team with all the good, solid young players that they have in this league and good young goaltenders that they have as well. It's a little odd that they didn't add another one there, and I understand the whole holding Russia out of international events, not only because of geopolitical events with the war, but doping issues with international sports over the last 2 Olympic cycles. I understand it, but when Kirill Kaprizov is arguably the league's best player right now, and Nikita Kucherov led the league last year in points, it's weird to not have Russia there when you look at those guys. And then, the 3 best goalies in the world are all Russians. And it's odd to not see that country represented.
Yeah, it is. And, it's
like
why
didn't they do the 5 Nations Cup just like they did with the World Cup of Hockey, and then you just do, here's Team Europe, everyone else, like you get to play with the Germans and the Russians, and why not do that?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly just don't like it from the NHL season competitive advantage that those players will get by resting their bodies and getting healthier. Meanwhile, Devon Toews is going to continue to play banged up. But I guess, hey, the more battle tested you are, that's good karma, right? The hockey gods like that.
I'm excited to see how physical those games get, because the World Cup of Hockey was not physical. It was very entertaining. It was very fast and unbelievably skilled. It was not, you never saw guys really go at it up until that final game, and maybe the 3-on-3 between Sweden and Team North America when you saw that crazy goal from Nathan McKinnon. I'll be intrigued to see just how intense it gets toward the end of it, because there is money on the line for all of these players, and they haven't had the opportunity to play international best on best for a while. Like when the teams go back to the Olympics next cycle, it will be intense and it will be physical. It's IIHF hockey, so it's vastly different than what you're going to see in the 4 Nations Cup, because that is NHL governed, completely different set of rules. I don't think you're going to see much intensity until the knockout stage.
All right, well, that's encouraging. I remember the that Team North America, whatever they branded that is, from how many years? That was so many. Was that pre-COVID that they did that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I bet you it was 2016.
Yeah, gosh, I remember that thing, but it's been so long. But I don't remember it being a less physical event, which is good. That's encouraging. I wouldn't mind seeing this played in more of an all-star type fashion, because the last thing I need is an Avs player getting hurt in that. I mean, that is the absolute last thing. After the season we've had, the injuries they've had, that's the last thing we need.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, Spring, let's get out of here late on a Sunday night. You've been at the studio for a while. Avs get a 4-0 shutout win. It's your look through the NHL scoreboard and the rest of the news around the National Hockey League. Also, because I can't contain my excitement, Juan Soto's a New York Met, and in my inner 7-year-old is just that I'm through the roof right now, Spring, through the roof.
Hey. It's going to be a better signing than when my Rockies signed Chris Bryant. So congratulations. You're getting a player in his prime, actually, instead of one who was getting old fast.
Did you see the news clipping a few days ago of the Rockies fan that emailed Dick Monfort and asked him to sign Juan Soto, and Monfort got back to him within 6 minutes on his phone and said he has stated that he wants to stay on the East Coast. And I went, yeah, that's the reason why the Rockies aren't going to sign Juan Soto, because they're not an East Coast team.
Yeah, I know that guy only through Twitter. He's a good. He seems like a good dude. He's freaking hilarious on Twitter.
It was unreal.
His name's Kevin, and the former sabermetric skeptic on Twitter.
Yes.
It's not the first time he has emailed Dick Monfort and that Dick Monfort has responded to him, and credit to him, I think with his shtick, he knew there was high likelihood of Dick Monfort actually replying, because Dick Monfort has replied to fans in the past with the infamous "sent from iPad" in the bottom portion of the email that autofills where he sent it from. Sure enough, Dick was true to his iPad and responded to Kevin in a matter of moments. But Dick was right. Dick told him, hey, Juan wants to stay on the East Coast. So maybe the Rockies had a feeler out there because they knew Juan wanted to stay on the East Coast.
You know who would look great as a DH for the Rockies? Pete Alonso. That dude would hit like 60 bombs in Denver.
Hey,
He'd
come to
strike
Coors
out a
Field.
billion times, but he'd have a great time at Coors Field.
Come to Coors Field. An aging all-star, that's right up the Rockies' alley.
It sure is, Spring. All right, that's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. Thanks to our friends at Safeway for sponsoring the show. As always, do all of your holiday shopping at Safeway and download the Safeway Deals app. You can get free delivery there as well as Safeway fresh foods and local flavors. For spring, I'm Alex Ryan, and we will talk to you guys on Tuesday evening after the Avs look to make it 4 of 5 on the road trip, this time against Sidney Crosby and his Pittsburgh Penguins. Tune in tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Brett Kane. You guys also have an opportunity still left. My hat that I'm wearing right now, my Adele golf hat, EDEL. You can go to altitudesportsradio.com/Adele, EDEL. You can still enter to win a custom set of irons from the Colorado-based company. We're giving those away tomorrow during Mosier, Lombardi, and Kane. So hours are ticking away. Make sure you guys get on that and tune in tomorrow morning for Brett, Vic, and Moj. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.